Chapter 82 and previous chapter were about yogic powers, supernormal powers. In the first part of chapter 82, Vasishta describes how yogis make their bodies atomic as also enormous. And I'm going to miss this paragraph out because it doesn't really tell us anything. You're not going to learn how to make your body minute, atomic or enormous from it. I don't see any way in which it can help us with self-knowledge. And the point was made in chapter 80 that the attaining of siddhi or psychic powers, well, the sage of self-knowledge is indifferent to it. The deluded person considers it desirable, and one who is intent on the cultivation of self-knowledge is keen to avoid. So these passages, they're very rare in the Yoga Vasishta, and they're probably there under some kind of pressure, some kind of social or cultural pressure. This is indicated in the next line. I have thus described to you the yogic method and shall now deal with the wisdom approach. There are these two strands. I usually describe them as the ways of classical or traditional yoga and the yoga of self-inquiry, which is here described as the wisdom approach. So in giving these teachings on how to acquire psychic powers, the Yoga Vasishta is taking the opportunity where it can to infuse it with the teachings on self-inquiry. It feels obliged to include these descriptions for some reason. I've put forward a couple of theories about the Yoga Vasishta and its construction. One is that it's actually a symposium of sorts, with lots of different speakers with different levels of understanding on self-inquiry. And they've been edited together in one big text under the guise of a dialogue between Rama and Vasishta. A lot of these speakers are obviously highly accomplished in self-inquiry. Some are repeating various formulae, and some are quite entrenched in notions of traditional yoga. Another theory is that the author of the Yoga Vasishta is trying to bring all of Hinduism within the umbrella of self-inquiry. So we've had the Bhagavad Gita, we've had the story of King Bhagirath who brought the river Ganga down to earth, and so on. They've had the stories of Vishnu's avatars and so on. But the Yoga Vasishta runs aground with these teachings of pranayama and traditional yoga. But it's part of Hinduism, so it's felt obliged to include them, and where possible it tries to bring in the teachings of self-inquiry. So we've had this yogic method described. I have thus described to you the yogic method and shall now deal with the wisdom approach. There is but one consciousness which is pure, invisible, the subtlest of the subtle, tranquil, which is neither the world nor its activities. It is aware of itself. Hence this jivahood arises. This jiva perceives this unreal body as real, but when the jiva perceives it in the light of self-knowledge, this delusion vanishes, and the body also becomes utterly tranquil. Then the jiva does not perceive the body. The confusion of the body with the self is the greatest delusion, which the light of the sun cannot dispel. So this has got nothing to do with yogic powers. This is the basic teaching on self-inquiry. When consciousness starts becoming aware of itself in the sense of being able to describe itself, then notions of individuality arise. Once it has a sense of itself, once it begins to differentiate, this is when jivahood arises. The body is only a notion. This is one of these notions which we take as reality. It's a very powerful one. This is why it says that this jiva perceives this unreal body as real. The unreal body is the notional body. If you think about your body, you're thinking about an idea of your body, a notion of your body. This has been looked into previously in a lot of detail. But when the jiva perceives it in the light of self-knowledge, this delusion vanishes. When the jiva realizes its identity with pure consciousness, the identity with the notional body disappears, and the body also becomes utterly tranquil, because you can let go of it. You can let go of all your anxieties and concerns about it. Then the jiva does not perceive the body. The confusion of the body with the self is the greatest delusion, which the light of the sun cannot dispel, but the light of self-knowledge can. When the body is considered real, it becomes a real body. It becomes a reality. The idea that the body is unreal is probably totally absurd to most people, and I'll probably be described as slightly, well, probably more than slightly nuts in proclaiming this. But this is the power of the belief in the reality of the body. For most people, for just about everybody in fact, the reality of the body is not something that you doubt. When it is perceived with the knowledge that it is unreal, it is merged in space. And this is metaphorical. This is taking the idea that somehow we can go up into space and making it into a metaphor. It is merged in space. It's the space of consciousness, the space of awareness. All notions merge in that space or dissolve in that space. Their nature as notions is realized, and the realization that everything is the space of consciousness is established. Whatever notion is firmly held concerning the body, that it becomes. Whatever notion that is held concerning reality, that's what our reality becomes. So here we've got this, the Yoga Vasishta doing its thing. It's taking its starting point, this teaching about how to use the Kundalini to acquire psychic powers, and then giving us a wisdom teaching. They did it previously in chapter 81 with notions about the solar and lunar nadis, the psychic channels. The last paragraph describes how we can enter into any other body, moving or non-moving, and undergo the desired experience. But we won't bother with that.